Hello everyone, I am Duke James. This is EU4 Meiou and Taxes 3.0 as Hungary. It's been a couple days since I recorded my last video, so I've learned quite a bit. Education. So there's both religious education and higher education industries. Religious education starts pretty much everywhere, and that is the clergy doing the education. The size in Pest is about 21 for religious education and 5.2 for higher education. This province did not start with higher education at the beginning of the game. Most provinces don't. I've noticed Vienna doesn't have anything. Prague does start with higher education. I think that's to simulate the universities in the game at the start, although I've noticed that there are some universities that should exist that don't. London doesn't have one, but Oxford does. That's not an example. Paris has one. I think Paris has the highest higher education in Europe at 93. I don't think Spain really has any. Where's their capital? Do they have one in their capital? They have one in their capital. So I think Spain should really have like 3 or 4. I think Murcia had a university in like 1320, so I think they should have one. There's a lot historically in Spain and France. I don't know. I haven't checked all of France's provinces, but yeah, there's not a whole lot, which I think that's why it causes the education to drop. So burghers dropped to 57 and the clergy dropped to 76. They were both low 90s, but that's pretty much everybody. I really couldn't find burghers more than 65%. Even Paris, with their 93 higher education and 41 religious education size, their burghers are 61%. Granted, their residents, they have 191,000 residents, and their residents' literacy rate is 33%. Apparently, it's residents and burghers that are the literati. So I think the burghers and the residents are the ones that work as literati and earn that rather high, actually, literati wage. And Pest, it's 8.2. The literacy rate in Pest for residents is 11.7. So I think the way it works is the more educated they are, the more knowledge they demand. So religious education and higher education, those industries produce knowledge, which is a trade good at the bottom, knowledge. Its price is actually pretty expensive, 27 ducats. It's 6 ducats less than luxury, and exotics are 16 ducats, so knowledge is 11 ducats more than exotics, so it's pretty expensive. The Pest produces 1.024 plus 0.553, so about 1.5 knowledge, but it demands 1.8, which is that red thing after produce demand. So I imagine that's why the burghers and clergy dropped, because the production is not there. So I think 1.024, I think that is the higher education production, and the other one is religious, because higher education produces... Actually, we can check. Let's see. Higher education produces 0.46. And religious education produces 1.1. So religious education is 4 times the size, but it only produces 2 times the amount of knowledge, because the religious education just has a lower rate of production. I think it's 1/4. It's like 1/2, something like that. Anyway, yeah, so I think that's what's wrong with education. The peasants did become more knowledgeable, probably because of the increased incomes. I imagine over time, once their incomes now drop to 7.232, so they'll probably actually drop. So the more literate your population is, the more knowledge they demand to keep that literacy up. So yeah, that's that. Interestingly, the price of knowledge has apparently dropped 0.114. Well, that's knowledge. So the other thing is, I think since it's bad to reduce manpower maintenance, I'm not exactly sure why. I think it affects this modifier, but I'm not entirely sure. I heard or I read that somewhere. But since I'm not reducing maintenance, it's pretty much good to constantly drill, because drilling gives... Drilling gives army professionalism. Army professionalism gives monthly war exhaustion decrease, yearly army tradition decay decrease, recruitment time decrease, national garrison growth, reinforced speed, recover army morale speed, available mercenaries, national supply limit modifier, reduces the looting amount, which is okay, gives movement speed, and then it gives army drill gain modifier and army drill decay. And it's one of those things where the more you get, the harder it is to get more, so it decreases yearly army professionalism. But yeah, drilling, probably want to do that as much as possible. I think most countries actually drill. Alright, the other thing is, since trade is so important now, I think it's Hungary. I'm going to drop fortification ideas and replace it with trade ideas. So trade gives merchants from trade centers plus 50%. That's pretty powerful. So merchants work different now. Okay, important centers of trade go around based on the commerce of provinces. This Pest has 91 size commerce. I think it's by the size of the industry. I don't think profit has much to do with it. But so there's an important center of trade here. That gives merchant gain plus 0.15. Then there's minor centers of trade, which give merchant gain plus 0.05. And then the level 3 gives 0.5. And then if that's in your capital, it gives plus 200% more to merchant generation. And if you own one trade center, then you get a base amount of 1.55 merchants. So you want as high a trade modifier in your capital as possible, because it gives that 200% more to merchant generation. And then trade gives another 50%, plus 50% merchants from trade centers. So that's pretty good to get. I'm just going to take all of these. And then ship trade power, we can't use that right now, but that's pretty good. Provincial trade power modifier plus 10%. Commerce production inefficiency negative 10%, so that'll help you help out your commerce industry, help out the burgers. Gives trade steering and ship trade power propagation plus 5%. Caravan power plus 10%. Merchant trade power plus 1. Unlocks commerce rights leading to commercialization. Don't know what that means, because you can get commercialization without that. Alright, another thing is, in terms of taxes, I think when I talked about taxes at first, I was wrong. So when you delegate taxes, if I wanted to, say, do a poll tax in pest, I could do this. Or I can't, because I can't click it now. Oh no, I've already done that. So I'll just go high. So it's high now. If I waited a year and then it delegates taxes again, that's going to disappear, because it's going to automatically do the taxes. So if I wanted that to stay like that, I'd have to either stop delegating taxes or change what provinces I'm delegating to. So I think I'm going to, let's do that actually. I'm going to do redelegation manual, and I'm going to do selected states. So I'm going to change this to medium. I'm going to raise charter fees to medium. Tax the burghers because they have money. I've made the burghers richer. The nobles are impoverished, so I'm going to go ahead and cut them some slack. I'm going to drop their noble dues to low. I think that's all I can actually do. The peasants are taxed at 21.5%, so I think they could go up a little bit more, especially since the peasants in this province are rich. And the burghers are taxed at 5.6%, so I think they could go up to... I think it'll go up to like 10% now. Somewhere around there. So then once the taxes do their thing the new year, then the admin price should go up because of those taxes now, but they should stay in place. Actually, I think all the provinces that have, or some of the provinces that have high peasantry, I'm going to actually do a poll tax. I'll just do low in these provinces. I think that province, this province, I'm trying to look for the provinces with over 100,000 pops or near it. I'm doing this province too because they have those mines, so the peasants should be pretty well off there. In terms of the estates, I think when I started this campaign, I seized from the clergy and the nobles. I think it's easiest to seize from the clergy. I think I would only seize from the clergy at the start of a game, because when you seize from the clergy, you lose clergy loyalty, spirituality, relations between the spiritualists and the state. So the main thing here is the spirituality. So you lose a concern when you seize from the burghers, clergy, and nobles. But you can get back the clergy concern by supporting the church. So you could do the lavishly endow the church and stuff to get that immediately back. You can pretty much every time you give, there's two. One gives half a spirituality, the other one gives one spirituality. So you can get that back and then some from the clergy. And I think that'll cover both the loyalty loss and the spirituality loss, but I'm not sure how you get hierarchy. Also, when I originally talked about these, pretty sure I was wrong. So they don't do anything with unrest. What they do, there's welfare, diversion, spirituality, consultation, and hierarchy. They affect the loyalty gain and loss for the corresponding estates. So each of these deals with a different estate. So welfare is I think it's the peasants. I'm not sure if it might be the bureaucracy. I'm not entirely sure on that, but it's the peasants. The peasants and the residents care about that. I don't think, some of them other estates care about. Nobody cares about the peasants except themselves. Spirituality is the clergy, consultation is the burghers, and hierarchy is the nobles, corresponding to their icons. But diversions is pretty much all of them to varying degrees. I think the peasants care most about diversions, and then the burghers, and then the nobles. Actually, the peasants might not care about that at all. I think it's the burghers care the most about that, and then the nobles, and I don't think the clergy care about that at all. And then consultation, I'm not sure about the other ones. I think only the nobles care about hierarchy. There is a list somewhere that I could look at. I should probably look at that. But yeah, they all care about each of these to varying degrees, and there are secondary estates that care about them. So that just makes the whole system even more confusing and tough to follow. But yeah, this is there's a lot of complex things in here that are not very easy to see at first glance how they interact with each other. Because I did look up the needs of each pop, so I'll briefly go over that. I gotta look at Wikipedia actually. So, food, the life needs are food, salt. Put this on trade. The life needs are food, salt, fiber, and fuel. Fuel is affected by temperature of the provinces. And then comfort is consumer products. Luxury is exotic goods and luxury product. So when the life needs in these provinces dropped for the nobles, burghers, and clergy, it was because the peasants were buying some of the stockpile, causing the nobles, burghers, and clergy to not be able to buy those goods. So they had increased competition from the peasants, which I imagine led to price increases in consumer goods, luxury. Those two increased. Price of fiber, food, and raw goods dropped. Fuel increased. I think that's because I didn't increase the... If anything, I decreased the amount of fuel production in this province because the forest shrank. So that is the life needs. So migration works based on the fulfillment of life needs. So if a pop isn't getting their life needs met, then they will migrate to another province. I think they migrate based on wages, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't think they look at employment. I think employment affects wages, which then they look at wages. The other thing is merchants. So in order to gain access to a trade node sectors, they call sections of trade nodes sectors. So a sector is what buys and sells goods and stockpiles them. In order to gain access to like the Vistula, their sectors, I would have to put a merchant here, which means that merchants are pretty important now. So you want to try to bump up your burghers as much as possible to get as many merchants as possible so you can get access to more trade markets. And through chaining merchants into nodes, you can have access to trading in Asia. So I think that makes colonization pretty powerful because you can buy the exotic goods in Asia. Which, actually, the spices and stuff over here, like these spice islands, are pretty powerful. Like this province, with 17 rural development, 5 urban development, and 1 upper class development, makes 13 ducats of taxes. And that's all because of the spices industry. So they make, actually, can I tag these guys? There we go. Their spice industry makes 223 ducats of income, and it spends 21.5 ducats. That's a profitability of 928%. So you don't actually have to own this province in order to profit from that. You can just trade with it. You get access to those exotics and you can sell them back in your market. So yeah, this these spices, very expensive. Let's go back to Hungary. So yeah, you really want to help your burghers because they will make you rich. So I'm going to actually support support them, I'm going to do this. So, supporting burgher autonomy gives burghers +1 power. Their power is 28, so they gain 10 power. I think that's fine. They get 20 burgher loyalty. Some monthly autonomy change and stability increase interval. That's fine. You lose I lost a stability point, but stability actually gravitates towards 0, which is why in the past I've lost stability what seemed like randomly, because it will, if you're negative, it will gravitate towards 0, so it'll give you stability, and if you're +1, it will decay over time. The thing with stability, even though I'm -1 stability, this aggressive policing gives national unrest -4 and national manpower modifier -10%, so that pretty much takes care of the national unrest from that one negative stability, and it'll naturally just go back up to 0 over time, assuming that I don't do anything. So that pretty much takes care of that. So I think going negative isn't as much of a bad thing as it was in the past. But that's going to be it for this episode, so thank you for watching, and goodbye.